New York. Unique New York. Hey, folks. That was just a little joke in honor of Ron Burgundy. Um, Welcome. This is our fifth Fall Farminar. Welcome to the Fall Farminar series 2013. This is our fourth year doing online seminars. We're so glad you're here with us tonight to learn from farmers. This is a free service of Practical Farmers of Iowa, a great organization that I'd like to take a couple minutes to share with you a little bit about. We're an organization of about 2,200 individuals, mostly in Iowa, but 12% of our members are not from Iowa. And we value some things that bring together a really wide, diverse mix of farms, scales, and farm enterprises and farm marketing strategies. These are some of the things we value here on the screen. Definitely, we value sharing, being really open, and helping others solve on-farm challenges. We care about independent operations that are diversified and integrated with our earth. We care about an agriculture that's economic and ecologically sustainable, but built on a fair market system, so no free rides. We value widespread ownership of land and resources, which is really important as we look to the next generation in Iowa and around the country needing to get a foothold and put in their roots in the ground to really thrive for the future. We care about our family, our community, and the celebration of wholesome food. All these great values were fostered, and this organization was really inspired by these farmers, Sharon on the left and Dick Thompson, with co-founder Larry Callum of Central Iowa. The Thompsons farmed near Boone for many, many, many years, and Sharon continues to farm. We lost Dick this August, and we're just really grateful for all of his great leadership and visioning to create this wonderful farmer-led organization that we have today. And one of the things that Dick Thompson always said is that we grow more than crops. We grow people. And that, I think, is what makes us very different and unique to the Iowa, and perhaps if you're outside of Iowa, perhaps your states as well. But we believe in growing more than crops, and we believe in growing people too. So that's kind of one of our angles on life and learning. And we grow all kinds of really wonderful kinds of farms. Like this is it's probably the most diverse farm in our organization. They've got organic row crops, they've got small grains, they have hay, beef cattle, they have a swine building, and they even have converted an old swine CAFO into an aquaponics facility where they grow fish and green lettuces and things. This is the Hafner farm near Panora, Iowa. I just wanted to feature them. If you are interested in those kind of values and supporting getting together with farmers that have all kinds of neat ideas, please join Practical Farmers of Iowa. It's just $50 a year for your whole farm to be a member. You can get really valuable discounts to our events. I'll tell you about that in a few slides. And it's a great way to keep in touch with a bunch of other farmers that want to support your success. Check us out further on Facebook. We keep that updated regularly. And if you're interested and ready to join now, click that join link on the screen and put in your credit card information, and we'll get you on the membership rolls. A couple upcoming events, not much. December is kind of our calm before the storm. So we do have one event this Saturday. One of our partner organizations is holding the Farmer Veteran Coalition Conference. That's the first annual conference of that type. If you're interested in that opportunity, there's some great opportunities from Drake Ag Law Can anybody hear me? Question mark. This is Jordan. I think Luke's restarting his computer, but I'm just waiting to get the okay from Luke to keep going here. Well, don't get too excited. I can't access my PowerPoint quite yet, so we'll wait for Luke. Hopefully he's just restarting his computer. Okay, everyone. Hopefully everybody can see the PowerPoint I just put up. If I could just get a person or two to confirm you can see it, I'll kind of move forward. I just got a call from Luke. He had total meltdown failure at his in-laws with internet connection, so he's going to be moving to a new computer. But I'm going to take it from here. So if anybody could just confirm they can see my slideshow here, I'll get started. Seeing sunflowers. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. My name's Jordan Clasen. I'm the owner-operator of Grade A Gardens in Johnston, Iowa. And welcome. I dubbed this Relationship Building 101, and feeling pretty professional here as a teacher. Hopefully you can learn a thing or two from myself, the rookie, and the professional Jody from Roxbury Farms. And let's get started. And I apologize for choppy audio. Hopefully, maybe I'll just take it a little slow. So getting started, thanks everybody for coming. I know there's a lot you could be doing on a Tuesday evening. I appreciate your time. Also, thanks Jody for being here. We all appreciate your knowledge and your experience you bring into the table on this topic. And thank you, Luke and Practical Farmers of Iowa, for inviting me to this webinar here. I appreciate it. Am I still very choppy? Can people just let me know if I'm still very choppy here? Okay, we'll just take it slow and sweet here. So ahead of you here is Rupert. This is the garlic dog. He is our farm mascot, and he thanks you for coming as well. So the topic today is building relationships and hopefully building better customers. So we're going to kind of just give you a little background on who Grade A Garden is and kind of our beliefs on how we go about building relationships. So hopefully you can build a stronger customer base and a just kind of a stronger friendship base in your community as well. So I'll kind of just give you a brief background on our history, kind of how we got where we are today. It all kind of started at this place here. I previously worked about 5 years of produce experience at Hy-Vee. It's kind of a local grocery store here in the Midwest. And I then put in for the produce manager position at Gateway Market. It's kind of a specialty grocery store in downtown Des Moines, where I ran their produce department for 5 years. My main focus, we did everything organically, with the emphasis on local. So I would try to do, as much local produce as possible, deal with as many farmers as I could possibly meet, and just kind of get the freshest product on the shelf at all times. One of the first farmers I remember dealing with was from Vedic City. It was Maharishi Farms. They do a lot in greenhouses. Ryan was my contact there at the time. He was probably one of the coolest guys I've ever met. And I remember the first time he brought in a sample, he brought these beautiful, beautiful chards and red leaf and green leaf lettuces. And really from the beginning, I was kind of drawn into this whole local and super fresh produce thing. It was kind of new to me. And you can see in some of my signage here, it was locally grown. It was picked last night. The prices were right, $2.50 for a big bunch of chard or a nice head lettuce there. We tried to offer it at a really affordable price. This was a large table I put right when you kind of walked in Gateway here so people could kind of see what was going on, what Gateway Markets stand for. And that was really my first connection to local organic in Iowa. This guy he really gave me a good vibe as far as a farmer, a local organic farmer in Iowa. He said he spent his winters in Baja. I thought that was kind of a nice thing for a farmer to do, go down south. But no, this guy was a nice contact to work with, and from then it kind of just snowballed. I only wanted more. I just wanted to help more farmers, and I wanted to see Iowa organic produce kind of succeed and flourish. So that's kind of where it all began. This photo here, it's kind of in the middle of summer. There were times where I just bought and bought and bought produce that I needed to find better ways to move it. So I would move the operation outdoors. So as you walked into Gateway Market, this is kind of what you saw. We offered really aggressive prices. You can see the sweet corn there, $4.50 a dozen. That's really cheap. Local melons, you can see that. And once or twice a year, I would offer these sack sales. We would, you can see the little paper bag there. Everything you could fit in that sack, $5. And it was all local produce picked that week. And I thought that was kind of a good impression for customers as they're walking in the door. They can kind of see, we support local folks. And it's a damn good price too. You can fill up that bag for $5 and feel like you're getting a good bargain. So that's kind of what Gateway, in my eyes, should stand for, and that's kind of what I tried to promote. From there, my current partner here in the far left, Thomas Burkhead, we were lucky enough to travel out west to a music concert, and I got asked to help. It was actually a music festival. It was a 3-day festival, and I got asked to help set up the farmers market, and we worked for some wheatgrass farmers out there. It's a 3-day festival. We helped set up the farmers market, and we also worked a booth there. And it was at that point where my first endeavor, grade A grass, was kind of sprouted. And these folks out west, they grew wheatgrass, and it was kind of at that time I could try it. I could taste the benefits, and I realized that nobody at the time was really doing it that well in Des Moines. So on the plane ride back, I said, well, somebody needs to be tapping into this market. So that is kind of how grade A grass, that's how grade A grass was born. Time out in California.
At that time, I also was lucky enough to have my good family friends let me take over a half acre of their yard. I tilled their yard, and at the current time, my mentor is Larry Cleverly. He was a big garlic farmer and vegetable farmer in Iowa, and the first crop I decided to really dive into and find a niche in was garlic. So we wanted to focus on gourmet garlic and wheatgrass. So you can see our farmers market booth here 4 years ago. This is grade A grass, and the only items we're selling are spring garlic and wheatgrass. We also had some Amish straw hats in there just for some character, but we had 20 tomato plants and some potatoes, but for the most part, it was just kind of focusing on just a couple niche items there. That year, I also focused on trying to do some pop-up produce markets. The photo on the left here is at the Embassy Club in West Des Moines. I would purchase produce from other Iowa farmers and set up here at the Embassy Club with, I would say, not great success. You know, I might have a few customers a day. I spent all this time and making these nice displays, and it didn't seem like the foot traffic was there too much, but at the end of the day, the chefs bought everything I brought out, and it kind of worked out for us. I was just trying to get known for having a face in Des Moines for having local, fresh, organic produce. The picture on the right here is Backcountry Outfitters. Thomas and I set up there for it was actually a t-shirt company, a locally grown t-shirt company. They were having their big shindig, and we set up a big produce market there and had produce from all around Iowa, and just kind of wanted to show that we support local as well. Later that year, this is kind of a picture of our garlic crop that fall. We just had a half-acre plot, about 5,000 garlic plants, and we focused on a few other plots. I was extremely proud of myself, and it was nice that Gateway was able to support any product I sold them as well. And you can see the photo on the right is I really wanted folks to know where their food comes from. So I took a little picture with my smartphone. I think I had like 4 or 5 15-foot beds or 15-foot rows of spinach, and extremely small at the time. And I would pick it that day and bring it in the next day and offer it to folks like that. And it just kind of seemed that people were really into it and wanted to support it. Later that year, we also, the company I worked for also owned a few high-end restaurants in Des Moines, Raccoon River Brewing Company, Django, Gateway Market, Centro. And so we kind of put our brains together, and we wanted to really celebrate this local food and kind of eating locally. And so we dubbed it Eat Out in Season. It was Hail to the Summer Harvesters. So we had 8 weeks. Each week each restaurant focused on a different farm, and you can see us at the last week in July. Anything that could come from our farm at that time, we sold to the restaurants, and they would kind of base their menu off of it. So it was kind of our first experiment dealing with chefs and local restaurants in the area, and it seemed to really take off. I think people were really supportive of it. All the customers that were eating at the restaurant at the time were really supportive of it, and it was something that kind of just kind of snowballed from there. Year 2, you can see Rupert the mascot and some beautiful garlic we have there. Grade A Gardens is born. You know, I like the name Grade A Grass, but if I was going to keep focusing on vegetables and kind of the farming aspect of it, I thought Grade A Gardens had a nice ring to it, and we kind of went from there. You can see here our farmers market scene. This is our second year. We're kind of starting to evolve. We're having a little bit more than just garlic and wheatgrass. We had some herbs at the time. At that point, we also tilled another half-acre space, and we were up to a full acre in production. We did some potatoes. We grew chilies for a local salsa, and we did some New Mexican chilies and a few other peppers for this salsa company, which Thomas worked for up until he went full-time with us. And it was just kind of a nice relationship. And in the far photo there, you can kind of see we expanded. We we had nice photos, let people know kind of what their food looks like in the field. We did our best to kind of merchandise it, get it right there in their face, and get our logo right out there, and so people kind of see what we were all about. At this point, my good friend, who is actually the cheesemonger at the Gateway Market, peeled off and started his own business. It was the Cheese Shop of Des Moines. He focused on artisanal American cheeses. And this was kind of our first relationship, kind of working with a friend. We requested that we got set up right next to him at the farmer's market. In this photo here, you can kind of see we had some apples and a few other items, and they had cheese, and we just worked really well off each other. And it has since flourished into a nice relationship, and it's worked out really well for us. This photo here is kind of a funny one. This is kind of, at this point in my life here, I was working full-time at Gateway and then farming full-time, so I felt like I had two full-time jobs. But the far left photo is kind of a funny one that I always remember. It was about 1:30 in the morning. I remember my girlfriend at the time. I was out there cleaning garlic on my living room, and that is a photo of how my living room looked at the time. I was getting ready for a farmer's market the next morning, and it was a mess, so you got to kind of find that proper work-life balance. I was completely dedicated to what I was doing. I wanted the farm to succeed, and at all costs, as you can see, I really tore up my house in the process. So later that year, this is kind of a picture of the peppers in the middle, our harvest, we were picking a lot more than we ever had, and the workload kind of seemed to pile on a little bit. So at the end of that season, we were ready for a vacation. So the far right photo is a photo from Roxbury Farm. They are a garlic farm. They sell seed garlic in Okanagan, Washington. My girlfriend at the time, we went out to Portland and then went to Seattle and took a road trip to visit this garlic farm. So in my mind, that was a perfect work-life balance. I wanted to kind of gain some experience, gain some knowledge as far as garlic grows, and it's nice to take a vacation, kind of get a breath of fresh air at the end of the year too. So we went out to Washington and farted around for a while. All right, year 3. And just because I haven't heard anybody talk in a while, if somebody could just make sure they're hearing me okay and everything's going smooth, I would appreciate that. All right, thank you, Matt. All right, so year 3, I was just heads over heels for the whole farming thing, as I was at Gateway. I only wanted, I tried to support as many local farmers at Gateway as I could, along with myself. But year 3 here, we started experimenting with other things. We were trying to figure out what people wanted. The photo on the left here is morel mushrooms. That's kind of a big hobby of mine. People in Iowa really seem to support foraging and the mushroom scene. So I loved going out and finding them, and that's kind of just something I like to do. So we were figuring out what the customer base wanted. Chefs love morel, so if it's something they wanted, we were trying to go after it. The photo on the right here is of our first party. We had a garlic fest. This is something my mentor, Larry Cleverly, did for about 15 years, and I think currently still does. But, people like to party, so we wanted to give people a chance to find out where their food comes from and eat a good meal. So we had a big potluck, we had a band, and we invited people to come out and check out what we were all about. So that's kind of a photo from our first party there. These are more photos kind of later in that year. We bumped our garlic crop up from 5,000 plants that year to about 10 or 12,000. We are currently working just the 2 plots there, about a full acre. And in the background, you can see we began transitioning everything over to an organic transition. So we did an oats and alfalfa rotation. The photo on the right is of greens. We had a kind of a good green market, and kale was getting known as a superfood at that time, so we put in a few hundred kale plants as well. We kind of just kept moving forward. It was about this time. It was kind of late in the season. And this is on the photo on the right here is a picture of Steve's Black Diamond watermelon. Steve is our neighbor at the farm there. He's been there since 1971, and for about the last 15 years, he's grown and saved his own seeds from this Black Diamond watermelon. So the title here is a story behind the product. We tried to not only sell a really high quality product, but kind of a story that kind of goes behind with it. So this was Steve's favorite melon, and Steve was nice enough to share the seed with us. And past few years, we've grown this variety of watermelon in honor of Steve. So it also offers a nice story for our farmers market customers. They want to know why this melon's so good, why it looks so pretty. And we just tell them it's all in Steve's seed. So the photo on the left here is kind of towards the end of the season. It's one of our apple trees. It's a golden delicious apple. And I remember picking this tree, and this is a natural apple. I kid you not. It had a smiley face on it like that. And then it seemed like that was kind of my aha moment. And I saw this beautiful little smiley face, and I said, you know what? I got to do this. I got to do this farming thing full time. So it was at that moment late in the fall that I wanted to farm full time. And I wanted to kind of move forward with the farming aspect. Luke, are you ready to talk? Or are you just getting logged back on here?
I was just thinking about maybe transition into Jody. Is it a good time to transition, or should we give you a few more minutes?
Am I going a little long here? I can transition anytime. I'm pretty flexible. Jody, are you ready to go?
Sure. All right. Am I on, Luke?
Yes, you.
Yep. Okay. So I actually got my start in farming when I worked at a farm near Des Moines, Iowa, and I worked in the late 90s. I spent 3 summers working at the Des Moines Farmers Market, so it's fun to see how it's evolved since then. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our farm this evening, and my husband Jean-Paul started our farm in 1990 with about 5 acres of vegetables. And that first season he grew for a wholesale market.
Jody, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
I wonder if I could have you adjust your microphone volume down a little bit. It's coming in a little bit too high now.
Is that better? Is that better, Luke?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Okay. And since then, our farm has grown over to about 350 acres through a number of different partnerships with different land trusts. And you can't see on this map, but we are not fortunate to be on flat, beautiful land like in Iowa, but we have a very varied topography on our farm. And out of those 350 acres, we have about 90 acres that we dedicate to vegetables. And every year we try to have about half of that in cover crops and green manure, or we'll try to take some of that out to rotate into a hay crop. And then we also have about 45 acres in vegetables, which is really only 30 to 33 in actual vegetable production. But it takes up about 45 acres with all of our headlands and our roadways. And then we also have about 160 acres in hay and pasture. And our hay and pasture are for our Black Angus beef herd. We also have hair sheep that we raise for meat. We also raise, we have 2 sows, and we raise their piglets every year for meat. And we're also experimenting with draft horses. So that's where our hay and our pasture are for. We are really lucky that we have a really great team of farmers who help my husband and I manage this crazy thing we call the circus. And so this is a picture of the farm team this summer. And in the beginning, when we first started, we had a number of different markets. We were doing wholesale, we were doing restaurant markets, we were doing some institutional selling, we were also doing a little bit of CSA. But at this point now, we just finished our 23rd season of CSA, and we've now grown to 1,100 CSA members, and that's what we focus on now. We do all CSA and 1 small farmers market. So I'll talk a little bit about our marketing, and it's based mostly on building relationships, and at the same time, the relationships also need to provide all of our customers with a high-quality product for a fair price. So why do we focus on relationships? Why is that the main thing we talk about when we talk about marketing on our farm? Well, because most of us, I assume, are smaller, and we're seasonal, and we're local. We don't really move our product very far. And most of us don't have a year-round growing season. So it's going to be really hard for us to compete with the large-scale industrial agriculture where food has become a commodity. Instead, we need to reconnect people to their food and where their food comes from so that they value their food again. And that experience can come from a farmer's market, come from eating local at restaurants. It can be a CSA, any way that you can really interact with people and reconnect them to their food and the people who grow it. And in the end, we really want people to know how their food gets from the farm to their plate, and we want them to know all of the steps that it took to get there. So over the years, we decided to focus on CSA because for Jean-Paul and I, that was really where our skill set lied as far as building relationships. It was a lot harder for us to build relationship with chefs or be at a farmer's market. We found that we really enjoyed the CSA relationship, but we have other friends who started farming at the same time in the early 90s who have focused on other markets. This is our friend Martin from our Cristo farm, and he grows salad greens for restaurants, and he's been working with the same restaurants and chefs for 20 years, and that's really supported his business. We have other friends who go to the green markets in New York City where they can make up to $10,000 in one market and have really loyal customers, and that's how they've built relationships for their farm. So we didn't really do farmers markets. We had one little farmers market in our local town that we felt was more of a community service. Until Shelley, who's on the right here, came to the farm, and she had a lot of experience working at farmers markets in California, and she really grew the farmers market this year to something that, it's not just pocket change anymore. And so because of her skills at building relationships at farmers markets, we're going to do another one next year because we really enjoy seeing what she can do with the farmers market customers. So when we started the CSA in 1991, the members really helped us shape the farm, and I think having their input and their guidance has really helped our CSA and our farm be successful. They wrote in the first brochure that the CSA was going to be based on a relationship of mutual trust and mutual benefit, that the farmers could trust the members to pay a fair price, and that the members would support the farm even in difficult seasons. And the customers could depend on the farmers to produce high-quality, fresh, safe produce, and to do it in a way that is sustainable, with the way the members really wanted to see their food grown. And this has really guided us with our relationship for over 23 years. And we've also found that a dialogue between the members and us as the farmers is really important, where we can both come together and share our needs, and the members can share theirs, and then together we can find a way to make sure that all of our needs are met. For instance, a few years ago, our truck transmission blew in the middle of the season, and we didn't really want to take out a commercial loan, because then that would be taking money away from the farm where we could use it more beneficially. So we went to the membership and asked them for a loan. And so members could buy either a 2-year, a 5-year, or a 10-year share and lock in at a price. And so we got enough money through our membership that way to buy a truck, and the members were then insured, produce at a lower price than other members would get. And in a way that we've built our relationship with our CSA members is that we're always really transparent with all of our growing practices, and even with our financials when members have questions. And through our discussions with our membership, we've decided not to become certified organic, because since all of our produce goes to our members, they feel that they can come and see what we do, and that kind of personal certification was enough for them. Like most people now, we have a website that we can update every day to tell people what's happening. It has lots of recipes. Members can also purchase additional meat products on our website. We also have a lot of information on there for farmers about how we grow all of our crops, how we harvest all of our crops, our soil fertility. So it's really a resource for the wider community. We've also found that having at our farmers market that we can post on the farmers market website what we're going to be selling every week and what's happening at the market. So it really brings customers to the market because they know what they can expect to purchase that week. We also find that by writing a weekly newsletter that we send with our CSA share that includes a letter from either Jean-Paul or I about what's happening on the farm or things we're thinking about in the agricultural realm. We also put a lot of pictures, and we have recipes, so that way members can have a better connection to the farm. And while not everybody reads the newsletter, people don't read, unfortunately, the ones that do read it really enjoy it and say that it's a really valuable part of their share. We also did the Facebook thing, and there's 4 or 5 of us on the farm who can post pictures, so that we're putting new photos up pretty regularly so members can see what's happening on the farm on a day-to-day basis. As our membership has grown, we found that in order to keep this relationship going, we need to have really good records. And so we've developed a database that allows us to keep track of how long people have been members, what kind of shares they're purchasing. It allows us to email them to make sure that they know that their beef share is coming that week, so that we can keep in better touch with our members, and then they feel more connected. As part of the dialogue that I talked about earlier, we do an annual online survey so that members can tell us how they felt about the farm season, how, if they felt they got a value for the farm share, are there things that they would like to change, or are there things they really enjoyed, so that we can improve what we're doing every year. But mostly the main thing is we really want people to connect to the food by eating it and by visiting the farm. We found that to keep people coming back, we need to teach people how to cook the food that we're giving them. And we're lucky enough to have quite a few members who write blogs that they post on the web, so we're not having to do all the education ourselves. This is one of our members who every week she writes up the recipes she's made with the vegetables in the share. And so we have this link on our website so members can learn from each other about what to do with some of the crazier produce we're sending them. They also post their photos of the share every week, and then post the photos and the recipes of the dishes they make. So it's really nice to see that they're forming a community themselves to educate each other. We'll also do different events at the CSA sites. We have 17 sites, some of them more than 2 hours away from the farm. So not everybody gets to come to the farm. So it's nice to do different events at the CSA sites. This one is we do cooking demonstrations at the site so that members can see what to do with maybe that bunch of chard that they don't know what to do with. And it also provides them an opportunity to create community at the CSA site. And the more connected they are to each other, the more likely they are going to want to continue to be a member. We also host work days on the farm. This one's a little bit embarrassing. We had some torrential downpours and we couldn't get to cultivating our Brussels sprouts and leeks, so we had this year a couple of emergency member weeding days, and we did end up saving the Brussels sprouts and the leeks, but hopefully this doesn't happen again. But it was really fun just to have people out on the farm with us, and we find that once people connect to the farm by actually being there, that they're more likely to want to continue to be a member every year. We also have festivals. Every 2 to 5 years we'll have a festival. It's a lot of work, so we don't do it every year, but it's really, we have music, we do a potluck, just try and bring as many people out to the farm as we can, because that connection is so important. We also do some educational tours. Especially, we have a lot of members in New York City who rarely get out of the city, so it's really fun to have them come up and to show them where their zucchini comes from or where their carrots come from, and that really brings a lot of customer loyalty. And even the small thing, like having a little tiny patch of flowers that members can come to the farm and pick with their kids, we have found to be surprisingly invaluable. We didn't do it one year, and members were really upset that they didn't have that opportunity to have a really direct connection to the farm and experience that with their families. So we found that little things like that can really help you to keep your members coming back and create this relationship to you and to the farm. Because in the end, I think that's all of us are really striving to change our food system from the public seeing us as producing commodities to actually producing something of value, something that people really look forward to and really enjoy. We want them to know that we're producing real food. And when they do that, I think they're much more likely to really want to be involved in what we're doing and to support the work that we all do. So that's what I have, so I'm now open to questions. So we have 1,100 members now. We grew from, in 1990 we had like 50 members, and now we have 1,100. And most of that growth has happened through word of mouth. We've had most of that work has been done by our members either inviting their friends to pick up their shares when they're on vacation, or just getting their friends and their neighbors and their family to join, and that's mostly how we've gotten members. So I see that, and we have for the number of acres under cultivation, we have 90 acres available for vegetables, and we have about 33 of them actually in vegetable production, which takes up about 45 acres. And then somebody asked about our database. So we do have a Small Farm Central website, but because we've been doing CSA for a lot longer, we already had our own database system set up, so it doesn't connect to the website. But I think if I had started now, I would much rather have Small Farm Central and the members do all of the work online instead of having us do it. We spend a lot of time doing that work. So I think that's a really great service. Because where we are in New York, our season isn't that long. We start in the middle of June, maybe the second week of June, And then we go weekly with shares for about 23 weeks until Thanksgiving. And then last year we started a winter share because we have a crew now that we want to keep on from year to year. We needed to provide some winter work. So we do 3 shares during the winter, one in December, January, and February, and members get a 30-pound box of root vegetables, mixed vegetables, sort of whatever we have on the farm. And we don't do any growing of greens in the winter, so it's just root crops, summer, winter squash, and cabbage that we've stored.
Hi, folks. Sorry to just jump in here real quick. I definitely want to get to your questions as well tonight, but I wanted to jump in real quick and see if we could bring back Jordan, let him finish his marketing strategies he's used that have been successful so far. And then we'll have Jordan and Jody visit a little bit, and then we'll bring in all those great questions from the audience too. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Luke. Hope everybody can hear me. I'll try to tie it all together here. Year 4, this is our last year, so maybe on a smaller scale, we do 43 members. We had a CSA this season, and we kind of took the leap. I sold my car. I bought this fancy little van. You can see Thomas on the right here. We built a nice deer fence around only 4.5 acres, if you can believe that. 43 members really allowed a lot. For a small farm like us, we really just wanted to focus on quality. We wanted to provide the best produce we could provide for 43 people. And with the money, we were able to do a few things that helped us in our season. We put up 2 of these small little low tunnels. We were able to buy a walk-in cooler. We built a little shanty town spot where we could clean our vegetables and get them ready for market. And it really, the money from those folks really seemed to help us kind of move forward. At the farmers market, we were really working with relationships with people. I wanted to be able to be seen at our markets. We built a nice 8-foot tall A there so people could see us. We got produce kind of right in people's faces so they kind of see what we were all about. We wanted to keep it colorful. Every market we wanted to keep it different. We were big about samples. And I think all these things kind of help build your clientele and kind of build your customer base. Keeping the stand different, being outgoing, giving people samples, talking about your food. It helps keep a little bit more of a relationship on our scale. These are just a few photos from our farmers markets this past year, summer and fall. You can see we do a lot with different layers. This is our last farmers market here. We try to just keep it different every week, and it's Thomas and I behind the booth. It's not, we don't really have any employees at this point, so it's just kind of the people dealing directly with the people that are growing their food. And I feel it's all in the little things. The photo on the left is a lady. Her mom spent a bunch of money with us, so I threw her a little garlic bulb, and she was super happy. The one in the middle, a CSA member of ours, he wanted a photo with our big A, so that's Theo. And the terrified kid on the right, sometimes you have those big vegetables. That was a monster zucchini. It really freaked him out, but his mom wanted to make bread, so we did it. As far as the chef relationships we have, this is Joe on the left here. He works with Adel Restaurant in Des Moines. The guy is gung-ho about everything we do. He was nice enough to want to do a tasting dinner with everything from our farm. Pretty much everything on the menu that night was from Grade A Gardens. It was an 11-course meal, and that's a picture of the Des Moines registered dude coming out and taking photos. The one on the right is kind of a more retail-based one. Any product I want to sell at a grocery store, I want to have our logo on it. I want the customer to take home our product and see where it's coming from. If it really tastes good to them, I want them to be able to say, wow, that was from Grade A Gardens. So it kind of helps to get your logo on the product. I think that's a big thing. Relationships with the public. Sometimes you do things that aren't, you may not feel worthwhile. That's the one on the left here. We did a pop-up produce stand at Picket Fence Creamery, and I think we had a few customers. It was a good event, but it was one of those things that you're really just trying to get your name out there. You're trying to get your face out there and your product out there. The one on the right was William and Sonoma in West Des Moines. It was one of those things that you're really trying to kind of promote your business and let people know who you are and what you're about. And even at a small setting like that, we try to have the best produce we could provide. So just starting small. Social media, we do Facebook. We're working on a website, but as far as our social media goes, we're just trying to keep people informed. We kind of keep politics out of it, but the one on the left here is the 4th of July. We're trying to be creative and create an American flag with our beautiful potatoes. And the one on the right here is a local restaurant that's using our produce. We took a quick shot and let people know where they could find our stuff. Mentors is a big thing for me. It was our first year full time, and the people in this picture have been doing it for 15 plus years. So trying to build a relationship with anybody older than you that's been farming, any amount of time seemed to be a lot of help for me. And anybody out there that's just jumping off and doing it, I would recommend talking to somebody that's been down the road before. Jody, I appreciate everything you've shared with us as far too. And friends, I think friends are a big part of the whole picture. We have the photo on the left here is we had a Seed Savers Exchange. We had an apple tasting at our farm, and these were a few of the people that were responsible for help putting up the tents. The one on the right, we are extremely late with our garlic planting this year, and we are lucky enough to call on a few friends, and sure enough, 18 people showed up, and we did a majority of our planting in one day. So at a small scale, don't be afraid to call your friends, family, all those people I think are willing to help out and want to see people like us do good. The weather's the wackiest thing for me. I still haven't grasped it, but working with other farmers and talking with folks, I think we can all come to a better better realization of what the weather is going to be doing and smarter ways to kind of do what we're doing. I don't think it's going to change, and we might as well start working with other producers to kind of figure out how we're going to tackle the challenges. This is a very, very big one for us. Relationship with fellow farmers. You can see Luke, big smile, beautiful produce display in the left picture here. You learn things from them. You can pick up displaying your produce techniques from them, and you can learn a lot from people. Ben is on the right there with some funky Romanesco. And this year we actually started a small support group with 5 farms in the area. We called ourselves the Quinn. This is Julia here on the far left, Lacewing Acres, and Nate and Alice from Mustard Seed Farms in the middle there, and Jordan on the far right. We once a month, every Sunday, kind of got together and ate good and just kind of talked about the season, how things were going, and that mentally for a small producer is it really meant a lot. It's nice to know those people are out there on a smaller scale and are going through the same struggles you're going through. So thanks everybody to the Quinn that is here. And wrapping it all together, I think if you're going to succeed and you kind of want to keep moving forward, Jody can probably be the first person to tell you this, but I think you really need to truly love what you do, take pride in what you do, from the weeds, all the way to the big harvest. I think it's all about loving what you do. I feel very blessed to do what I do, and I feel like I'm doing a great service to my community, so it means a lot. We try to take a lot of pride in everything we do, just kind of keeping everybody in the same loop here, and we are trying to be different. We like to be creative. The photo on the left here is myself, the big fat lettuce head stuck in my mouth, and I call that the lettuce head. This is my buddy on the right. We went out mushroom hunting and found a bunch of morels, and that was his first hunt. And we're just trying to be different. We're not trying to be your stereotypical Iowa farmer. We want to let people know that what we're doing is new, it's creative, and it's different. We like to work very, very hard, and we also like to play hard. This last year we had a couple big events. The apple tasting, as I mentioned before, we had over 100 types of heirloom apples at the farm put on by seed savers. And then on the left here, this is we declared ham independence at Grade A Gardens. That's Urbeck House. They're a nationally known pork artisanal cured meats producer, and we're really proud to have them in our backyard. They are CSA members, and they had a real large party at our farm, and we had a good time with it. So we like to work hard, and we also like to play hard. And that's it. That's kind of where we are now. We have the most garlic we've ever planted this year, about 25,000 plants. We hope to expand to 60 members next year, and just kind of get smarter with our space, focus on farmers markets, getting in more restaurants, and just kind of being a nice role model in our community. So thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, Jody, for all your time. And if anybody has any questions for me, I would be more than happy to answer them, but the floor is open.
Excellent. And feel free, Jordan, to take the first questions for Jody if you've got a few in your head.
Well, Jody, I will ask the first question. And this is an interesting one. I'm just wondering kind of how you keep your cool. It sounds like you got a lot going on. You have an 11-member CSA, and I have 40 members, and it seems like every day it's something new and exciting. I love it, but I'm just wondering what you do to kind of get that nice work-life balance there.
Yeah, it's difficult. Some days we feel like we're running a circus. But I'm lucky now that there's a team of us who manage the farm. And so it's not just my husband and I carrying everything. And at the beginning, it was harder to allow other people to sort of step in and take control of some things because both of us are kind of control freaks. But I think that we've let go and let other people take things on, and it's actually better for all of us to have that shared. So it's not just two of us managing this whole thing. And I think that's really been an improvement in our life the last couple of years. And then this summer, my husband bought a sailboat, so we spent some Sundays sailing, which was pretty nice. So to answer Sally's question, for our farm, I think the way we measure our relationship building success is a lot in our member retention. And I think we have usually about 85% of our members rejoin. So I think for us that's how we have sort of measured how we're doing. And then we also have a few members who we're really close with and who are also really good at sort of gauging the membership by visiting them and talking with them, and then they can come back to us and tell us what's working and what isn't. So we have a few key members who can also go out to the membership at the sites and figure out what's working and what isn't.
And I think on our scale, we could kind of just see it on a week-by-week basis at the farmers market. Every week we would see about 20 or 30 at 7 a.m. of the same customers that we saw the previous week. So it was a little bit more rapid, and we could kind of stay in contact with them. But what we are doing seemed to be working, and this is our first year doing a CSA, so we haven't really fully seen what kind of retention we're going to get next year. But we hope to have quite a few members back. And Danielle, to answer your question, we have a few work share people, and we also have a couple people that help us a day or two a week. And we are farming about 5 total acres, mainly by hand. So we kind of base currently some of our employee labor on work shares and family, but we do pay 2 employees 2 days a week, and then Thomas is full time. And currently this winter, yes, I am working off farm, and I'm working for the cheese shop, which you kind of saw earlier, just doing kind of the same day-to-day grunt work, just paying the bill.
So I'll answer a couple of questions, I guess. So as far as the crops to grow, that sort of developed over, Jean-Paul's started this farm 23 years ago, and then I joined in 2001. So it's just been over a lot of years. We sort of surveyed members, had a lot of feedback to sort of figure out what makes a really nice share. And then our growth cycle. So Jean-Paul started with 50 members the first year, and then the second year he had grown up to 250, and then by 99 we were at a different farm with different land, so we had sort of maxed out at 650 members. And then in 2000 we moved to a new farm where we had the potential to grow larger, and that was a lot harder to jump up from 650 to 850. That was a pretty big jump. At that scale, we needed more employees and we needed more equipment, and it just took us a few years to be able to afford to grow. So that was a rough jump, but the jump to 1100 was a lot easier. We found that we could scale up with our equipment and hire a few more people, and that was the sweet spot for our farm, where we don't really want to manage too many people. During the height of the season, we have about 13 employees, and that's about as many people as we really want to manage, because we also still want to be part of the farm work. And it's also what we feel is the best for our land, where we can still take a lot of it out of production. So Jordan, did you want to maybe address Drew's question? I don't live in a rural area anymore, unfortunately.
Well, Drew, hopefully I can encourage you maybe just to get out there and just talking to people about what you do. I have found that if you have a good product, it seems like, every person you tell that believes you have a good product will maybe tell 10 more people about your product. So if I lived in a small community, I would encourage you maybe to get involved in your local farmers market. Maybe find the best restaurant in your area that would give a hoot about your produce. That's kind of another big one for us too. We only want to sell our produce right now to people who are passionate about our produce. So, I don't want to sell it to somebody who's just going to put it on a shelf and put locally grown on it. I want to sell it to a chef that, it says this is Grade A Gardens greens. They're just picked yesterday. They're, it's arugula, it's extra spicy, blah, blah, blah. I want somebody that can kind of tell our story at this point in our scale, our story behind the product. So I would just maybe recommend that, you just kind of get out there and get on your megaphone and let people know what you're doing and why it's different and why it's fresh, and kind of get your story out there.
So, we've also found that, Ben, to answer your questions, that we've had the last couple of years, our CSA member work days there's been fewer people. We get a lot more people if we call it a festival, and that there's music and things, or a farm tour, things like that. But, because so many of our members live in New York City or in the capital district of Albany, they don't really get to visit the farm. So we found that the members really enjoy having a weekly newsletter. I mean, even if not everybody reads it, I think they enjoy just being able to see the photos and use the recipes. And I think they feel like, because we're spending the time to write them a letter, that they've really found that to be something that's important to them. we do member surveys. We used to do paper surveys, but now we've gone to SurveyMonkey because that's a lot easier to sort of compile everything. And I think a lot of the reasons people leave is that they found that they don't eat that many vegetables, or they move, or like their kids have grown up and now it's just the two of them. So that's mostly and I think also where we are, there's so many CSAs that a lot of people do CSA hopping, and so we lose some members to that, but we still think we have about 85% retention rate. And I think the reason that they stay is that we provide a really high quality product and we still have a pretty reasonable price. We try to stay less than it would be if people went to like the health food store, even a farmer's market. Our price is still a good value, and I think members also, because we're in an area where most people live in the city or in an urban area, that they really enjoy having a connection to where their food comes from and to a piece of land. And for the surveys that we do, some years we used to do a lot more detailed, like what do you want us to grow, when we were first starting to sort of figure out a share recipe. So what you want us to grow, what do you want more of, what would you like less of. But now I think that we sort of have the recipe down. Mostly we just want to make sure that people are still happy with the value that they get for the price that they pay. Or, as there is more produce available, organic and local, they've asked us to sort of grow some of the stranger things that they can't get easier at the grocery store, at the farmer's market. So we do try and change that if people ask for sort of stranger vegetables instead of just the staples. So I think the detail for your survey, I think, would depend on where you're at, sort of in your farm growth and figuring out how to meet your CSA members' needs. And let's say, like, sometimes we'll have a very specific question because right now we purchase in local fruit from an orchard that isn't organic. It's local, but there isn't organic fruit really where we're located. And so we've asked them if that's okay, if they would prefer that we buy in local fruit, or if they would prefer organic fruit that we could source from, California and all over. And so each year we keep getting back that they'd rather have local fruit even though it's not organic. And so that's been really helpful to kind of guide us on what to do with that situation. I think as far as getting members to fill out a survey, I think online we've gotten a lot more people to fill it out because it's much easier than if they have to fill in a piece of paper. So I think, and it also seems people are more likely to answer questions that are like yes, no, or multiple choice than if they have to do a lot of writing. So I think that we found that, if we send them by email with something else, like pictures or something in the email, so that they're likely to open the email and then they'll do the survey. So to answer Luke's question, because we have 17 distribution sites every week, we made, and because we knew early on that most of our produce was going to be going far from our farm, up to 2.5 hours away, that we weren't going to be able to be at the sites. So each of our sites has 2 to 3 members who receive a share, and they staff the sites. And we make our members be responsible for setting up the site, cleaning it up, and then all of the produce that's left at the end of a distribution period is donated to a community kitchen or a food pantry, and the members are responsible for delivering that produce. And so we interact with these, we call them site coordinators, every week. We send them emails, and every spring we host them. We make a nice lunch, and we host them a special day at the farm for them with a farm tour, and just to make sure that they feel like we really value them, because without them we couldn't do what we do. And relying on volunteers can be tricky sometimes, because they're busy. It's not their job. It's not their life. But most of the time it works out because the community understands that they're also volunteers. I don't know what you do, Jordan, but on our on our farm we don't do any customization with our CSA shares. We've decided that they just get one share to make it simpler for us.
And ditto with us, we just offered just one share. We didn't even actually offer half shares either. We just kind of did just full shares. So that's kind of all we did.
Yeah, so to answer Luke's question about the 3 most effective actions, I think that that we're very transparent with our members, and that we share with them our struggles, our successes, how things are going on the farm, and that we've based this relationship we have on a dialogue, so that let's say we have members who are having a really rough season, a rough year. They lost their job, and so we'll carry them through that CSA season. Members, when we lost our land in 2000, our members donated money to a land trust to help us buy a farm. So by having this, we take care of each other sort of idea, and also that I think that we've always written newsletters, and I think that's been a really helpful thing to have members be able to read about what we're doing and what we're thinking. And yes, our CSA, our site coordinators, they all get a free CSA share. The members pay for the share. That's in part of the share cost. So the farm doesn't cover that cost, but they do receive a share. But it doesn't really compensate them for all the work they do. So it's also a labor of love, which we really appreciate. The crop failure. Yeah, we've had some really bad weather. I think everyone has the last few years. With Hurricane Irene and then Tropical Storm Lee, we lost 16 acres of vegetables when our creek flooded. So we had to stop our season early, and we couldn't do our winter distribution. And so because we didn't have any produce for the winter, we gave members the option that we would refund their winter share, because we didn't have anything for them. And more than half of them told us to keep that money because they felt that we needed it to meet our all of our costs, and the share was $100, and they felt like the $100 would make more of a difference to us than it would to them. And then we made sure, when we do have a good season, that we strive really hard to make sure that we sort of make up for it by giving them, a lot more vegetables, or, try and give them some, grow something more exciting that next year, like, cantaloupe, or, something that members really enjoy. But yeah, I mean, we did lose. It was a little bit harder the following season to fill up. Usually we filled up with our members, early in the spring. And that year we were still selling shares through June. I mean, we did fill up, but it was a little bit harder, I think, because some members didn't really understand that that happens. I think members who have been members for a long time understand that there's an ebb and flow with the seasons, and some years they'll get so much food that they don't know what to do with it, and then some years it'll be hard. And that's, I think, to address Kathy's question again about crop failure, I think that over the years members have, because now there's so much more high quality organic produce available, that we've had to learn a lot in order to reduce our crop failures due to, our failure, diseases, or insect damage. Obviously crazy floods and storms and hail you can't do anything about, but I think we've tried to educate ourselves about better soil health so that we can have healthier crops, and how to, there are now so many organic products available, how to use them correctly to reduce like late blight in tomatoes, or insect damage on crops. So we've worked really hard on increasing the quality of our crops beyond, we can't do anything about hail.
Jordan, thank you for the comment on our display crates. I kind of had a design, and I had a good friend who is a woodsman kind of implement them. So the A Thomas made. He's pretty crafty like that, but a lot of them I just kind of had a design of kind of what I wanted, and I had a friend who was a little bit better with wood implement it for me.
Yeah, Ben, we've had that issue. Even with, now that we do a separate winter share, some members have been pretty upset because they think that everything we grow goes to them. So we've explained that we've designed a share that for every week, and then we figured out how much acreage that takes. And so those, let's say 30 acres are for them, and whatever comes out of those 30 acres is for the CSA that summer. And then the 3 acres, or I'm not even sure at the top of my head, that we've devoted to winter production is something separate. And so that way we make sure that, because it can get tricky if you're doing all different retail markets, to sort of make sure that you're still keeping true to the CSA idea that they get a bounty from the farm. And so we sort of explain it that we have these acres, and what comes out of there is for the farm members. And then to answer,
I kind of just manage mine. Go ahead, Jody. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jordan. No, go ahead, answer. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Before I did a farm myself, I actually was in a CSA, and I kind of just based mine on how I cook personally at home. So I definitely like to have a nice fat box for the customers, but I also like to have a nice full stand down at the farmer's market. So there's a fine line between giving somebody 3 or 4 tomatoes or 10. I think you can also easily overwhelm a customer. So I kind of just based it on what I felt I would cook at my house and what I would enjoy. And I often would take a box home and just eat off it for the week and kind of see how long it lasted me. So. I guess I like to cook, but it's also that's kind of a way.
I would agree with Jordan that sometimes it's almost harder not to overwhelm people, especially like when you get into August. And it is something you have to consider, that you don't give them so much that they feel like they're wasting it. Because even though they got so much food, they don't use all of it. They're going to think they're not getting their money's worth because it's going to the compost pile. So making sure that you do have a good sized chair but not too big is also something definitely to think about. So our transition to CSA sort of happened naturally. It sort of is because our farmers market when we went to New York City was 3 hours away, so you leave at 3 in the morning and you're home at 9, and that was a pretty brutal day. And because we were one of the first CSAs in the city and in our area, there was a lot of interest, so we had people coming to us, so it sort of happened naturally that we could then drop the things that were causing us stress or relationships that were more difficult, or the crazy drive to New York City. We were able to do something that allowed us to stay on the farm and allowed us to have a more secure income. So to answer the Bossy Acres question, we don't price out our box. So what we do is, like this time of year, we're developing the share price for next year. So we'll go through and we'll figure out what it costs us to produce the share, what it costs us to operate the farm for a year. And then we'll divide that by 1,100, and that's our share price. And then we add on administrative costs or trucking costs. But we don't really, because we don't do any other markets, I don't even know really what people are charging in New York City for the same things that we're growing. But the members aren't really purchasing a box, they're paying to support the operating budget of the farm. And that's how we've worked it out for us. And which maybe we don't get as much money as other people would, but we feel that at our scale that works for us, and it also helps with our relationship with the members because they understand that they're paying not for vegetables but to support the operating of the farm.
And Bossy, I will add, the first half of the season, I was kind of, I figured we charge people X amount for the CSA for the year, and it would, be around $25 a week. So I was kind of wanting to put that amount of produce in the box. But after, you get through the season and you start looking at your different costs, it's kind of, you got your box that cost $1.50 that the customer didn't bring back, or, you'd have the gas that it takes you to get to your drop site. So there may be some weeks when you have a $35 box, and there might be some weeks when you have $20. So towards the end of the season, I really didn't put too much thought in it. I just tried to give them the best box we could produce that week. So.
Thank you all very much for joining us tonight. That concludes our Farminar for tonight, our Fall Farminar series. Thanks very much to Jody and Jordan. I really appreciate you guys working with me through this technical issue we had tonight. And would you like to say anything else in closing remarks?
It was really great. And Jordan, your stuff looks beautiful. It's sometimes we've been doing this for so much longer, but your stuff looks really great. And it was really fun to talk to Iowa again. It was great. So thank you.
And thank you, Jody. It's exciting to see. Well, I don't know if I'm ever going to get that big, but hopefully in Des Moines that we could support a 1,000-member CSA in a few years. So you give us something to strive for. I appreciate it.
All right. Good night, everyone.